Welcome to Faith in Practice, presented by Higher Powered Sports, PT, the podcast where faith meets everyday life and vocational calling. Each episode, your host, Kurt Kessler, and his guest will explore how to live out your faith in your work, relationships, and daily challenges. Let's grow together and discover how to live out your faith with passion and purpose. Let's get started.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Faith in Practice. Thanks to everybody for joining. I have a special guest with me today. Her name is Jaceline Dejean. She is currently the clinic director of a PT clinic in New Jersey. A little perspective from my end here. Did you ever have a friend who is so cool that just by being around them made you feel cool? Because that's what Joss is to me. So I invite her on here to make me feel cool because I know that I'm not. We met in PT school. We were in the same class in Messiah. She grew to be one of my closest spiritual friends and supporters. She is incredible, and I'm so happy to have her on today. The reason I'm having her on today is because her and her family were able to overcome adversity and loss during their family's house fire, and we're going to talk a little bit about rebuilding life from the ashes with faith. Joss, thanks for coming on.
Kurt, that intro was too kind. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Let's get started here. So can you give me a little bit of your faith journey, a little bit of your background?
Yeah, for sure. So I was born and raised in church. My parents have 6 kids, and I'm the 4th of the 6. And they were very adamant about keeping us in church, and also they put all 6 of us in private school. We all attended Christian school I attended from 2nd grade on to 12th grade. I graduated from Christian school, and all my siblings did as well. My parents wanted us to have a firm foundation in the Word of God. And from then on, I pretty much being part of church and being part of that school, I don't know, my faith kind of grew at that point. I want to say I accepted Christ when I can't give you an exact age, but I know I was late elementary school. So I know I accepted Christ late elementary school, and I got serious about my faith throughout. I keep mentioning the Christian school because that played a big part in my faith walk. I think my biggest thing, the biggest thing God could have done for me is put Christian friends in my life. And from the moment that I was in that Christian school up until now, I think in every season of my life, God has put Christian friends there for me to kind of help me in my walk and hold me accountable. And that's kind of where it all started. So I attended church, but I also was in Christian school. So I was just surrounded by people, like-minded individuals. And fast forward to when I met you, Kurt, again, another friend that God has put in my life to kind of hold me accountable and also serve kind of as an example for what it means to be a Jesus-loving, Bible-believing Christian. So it's a journey, every day, but I guess I can go on for days for stories as to why I still believe in God till this day and always will.
It's funny that you say that because my upbringing, my experience is a little bit different in the sense that not many of my closest friends are believers. And I mean, it has been cool in the sense that they've always accepted me for what I believe. And, we still have this respect together. But it wasn't until I went to Messiah and we had our class that I really felt that community of believers around me and to have people close to me that were believers. And it's something that unfortunately I'll probably never have in that capacity or in that realm again. But it was really special while we were there. So the connections I made with you and some of the others, that live on to this day have been really important to me. So in that regard, I definitely know what you're talking about. So was there a certain moment? Now I know you had the early background in Christian school, but was there a certain moment where you felt like you took ownership of your faith and your walk with Jesus?
I would say probably closer to when I graduated from high school. I knew I don't know, I was kind of hit with reality that I wouldn't have my Christian school or Christian friends to fall back on once I graduated. And so I had to kind of come to a position where it was I have to be serious about my faith or decide what I want to do going forward, because I wasn't going to be attending a Christian institution for college. I went to Seton Hall. It's a Catholic institution, but I knew I wouldn't be held accountable the way I was held accountable pretty much my whole life, like by an institution or by my close friends. So I had to decide like what is it that I believe in, and how do I further my faith without having to fall back on someone or something else that isn't God, you know? And towards I think it was my senior year of high school, I decided to get baptized. And the church that I was attending, like, it's not like you just decide today to get baptized and you go get baptized. Like, no, you had to go through months of classes. So like they wanted you to be firm on this decision that like you wanted to take this step with Christ. So I decided to get baptized, and I was in the months and months of classes. And like, I think that was like a huge turning point in my life where it was like, no, this was my decision. Nobody forced me to get baptized. Nobody pushed me to do it. It was something that I felt God called me to do. And we went through with it and haven't looked back.
Again, it's so funny because my experience with baptism is completely opposite of yours. I went to church. So Carly was in Georgia at the time doing an internship. So I was going to church by myself. And I remember I was sitting in the back of the church, and the pastor was up there talking about baptisms and, you know, why we do it, why it's important to do it. And I was sitting there like, no, I don't want to do it today. I don't want to get up in front of people. I don't have a change of clothes. I don't have whatever. And it was amazing. For every excuse that I made in my mind, he then had a response like, well, that's why you go in this room and we have millions of outfits to change your clothes and this, that, and the other thing. And I got to the point where I ran out of excuses. I wasn't expecting to be baptized that day, but I sat there and I just felt this overwhelming feeling. It was almost like an anxiety because I was being pushed to do something. And I sat there and I remember I said, God, if this is you, then I can't deny you. If I say I'm a follower, then I can't deny you. And so then I stood up and I went and I got changed and went and did it. And from that moment on, like that was it. I was following. So yeah, it's just funny how, you know, we can arrive at the same place, but taking different paths.
Different routes. That's right.
All right, let's get into the topic that we came here to talk about. So it's fairly appropriate with, you know, everything that has gone on in our country recently in Los Angeles with the fires. A lot of people, you know, not that we have a huge listening contingent from LA, but something that, you know, has been in the mainstream recently and in your own way have kind of experienced that. So can you tell me the story about what happened with your family's house? How did it happen and the impact that it had on your family?
For sure. So I was in PT school a couple months, and I think we started in like June, and fire happened on October 6th of that year, 2019.
2019,
maybe?
yeah.
I don't know. I think it was 2019, our first year. So a little backstory, my father had purchased this house, again, a family of 8 living in this house in Orange, New Jersey. He purchased this house almost 20 years prior to the fire, and we lived there. Like, I remember the day we moved into that house. I was pretty young, like 3 years old. And we lived there. Great. I still miss that house. I'm not gonna lie to you, but like, just so many memories, you know, like when you're living in a house for 20 years and like my 2 younger sisters, like they were born and into that house. Like I had moved into the house, but they were born into that house. And so to have that, like that much history in this home, it was a pretty big thing. So again, fast forward to October 6th, it was a Sunday morning. I wake up to a phone call from my oldest brother, who wasn't living there at the time because he was married and had moved out, but like he was FaceTiming me really early that Sunday morning. And I answered the phone call, like, what do you want? Sunday morning. And I could see behind him, it's just black. And he goes, hey, did you have anything else in the attic? And I said, what are you talking about? Like, no, he goes, the house caught on fire. I said, wait, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, what's going on? Is everybody okay? First thing he told me was everybody was fine. Like, thank God. How did the fire happen? We don't really know. We just know, like, I guess it was like an electrical fire that started at the outlet in a room in the basement where one of my brothers slept. It was right in his bedroom. He says he woke up and looked over and his guitar was on fire.
Jeez.
And he tried kind of putting it out. And like the extent of the injuries of the house was he had like some burns on his hands, but that's the worst of it. And we'll take that. If that's the worst that's going to happen, we'll take it. He tried putting it out. And mind you, this is like maybe 4:30 in the morning, I'm assuming. Very early in the morning. He couldn't put it out. So he runs upstairs and my mom just so happened to be awake and preparing food in the kitchen. And he told her like, hey, like there's a fire, and she could just see smoke coming out of the basement. And like at that point they woke up it was my brother, my mom, my dad, and 2 of my sisters, my 2 sisters. And then they all evacuated the house and everything. And I guess the house, way our house was built, there's something called ballooning. Anybody who like is a fireman will know this. But the fire started in the basement and kind of shot up the sides of the house and then kind of engulfed the attic, and it was just kind of closing in on the house.
Wow.
So by the time they put it out, the attic was destroyed, the basement was destroyed, everything in between kind of just got heat and smoke damage. But I lived in the attic. So yes, I moved to Mechanicsburg at that time for grad school, but I left most of my stuff there. Like my high school diploma, my college diploma, like any of my like keepsakes, I only took really my clothes to PA when I moved there. So all my important stuff was left up there and like burnt to a crisp. There was nothing that I could take out of the attic at that point. Same with the basement, nothing we could take out of the basement. Yeah. So it's funny because there was this, we had a bunch of photos and they were in this old like Lego bag. And I remember like when I left the house, I left that bag of photos was always in the attic. And I was just thinking to myself like, wow, like we really just lost that's like all of our family photos in one spot. And I don't know how and I don't know why, but somebody relocated this bag of photos to the base of the attic steps, like on the ground. Like you open the attic door and it's right there on the ground. We still have a bag of photos, thank God. So I don't know why, but had it still been up there, it would have been lost. But kind of fast forwarding to like the impact that it had on us, like we thought, like me and my siblings, I think all thought that my parents were going to like rebuild, like, we're going to go back to our house. Like that's our home. And I think my dad, like being as hands-on as he is, he knew that this wouldn't be a project that he would just be able to kind of let happen. Like he would be very hands-on. So he decided like, it's either he's all in or we start fresh. And he decided to sell the property. And like, thank God, like he had good home insurance and stuff like that. They were able to buy a home not too far away. We live like maybe 15 minutes from that house, but they were to buy a home and kind of start fresh. And honestly, my parents love it here. And that's all that matters to me. We all love it here, but like, they really love this property. They love this area. Everything really, really worked out. Like they're like the whole beauty from ashes, like that is a real thing. Like as bad as that experience was, like there's still beauty that came out of it. And that's like where we live now and how we're all still together. It's great.
I remember when it happened and we were all kind of, first of all, we were all getting to know each other, but I remember a group of us kind of rallying around you a little bit. What was the emotional toll like being away from your family at school when all this happened?
Oh, that was the worst part. I mean, like, well, first of all, it's like my family's going through this tough time and I'm not even with them. I felt like I'm kind of abandoning them, right? A bunch of my friends knew that, like, they're like, we'll take you home. Like, let's go home. Like, we'll take you back to Jersey. And I was like, I need to take these classes. Like, I worked so hard to get into this program. Like, I'm not about to just leave. And if I leave, I'm not.
Right.
Like, that's it, And it was tough because I think that weekend, like, we had an exam, I think the next day or something like that, a practical, and I definitely bombed it. And I remember going to one of our professors and letting them know, like, hey, so this is why I bombed it. Like, but I would take it. Like, we had to retake our failed exams or whatever, and it all worked out fine. But anyways, emotionally, like it was tough, like I said, because I couldn't be here for them, and I kept calling them, and like I have my two younger sisters who like lost that very day they had to go shopping for clothes, and I couldn't be there for them, and I can't imagine how tough that situation must have been, or how scary it must have been. You're running out of your house and it's on fire. So I think that was probably one of the hardest things for me, not being able to be here with them during that time, as well as like not knowing what came next and trying to focus on school. Like PT school wasn't easy. So adding this added emotional situation on top of it while trying to focus on school, like it was so tough. However, like, again, I'm a firm believer that God gives you everything you need for the season that you're in. And like being a part of Messiah and having you guys rally around me like the way you did, like, I don't know, like God really prepared me for that bad situation that would happen, because like he equipped me with the friends that I would need to kind of help me through this situation. Again, as tough as it was, like I was never alone in it. I had great friends around me. I had family around me.
What did you learn about your family, yourself, or your support system through all this?
Well, I mean, I know I got a strong family, but I really could see it in these moments, because like I said, we didn't know what was coming next. At that point, like you're kind of on a time crunch to figure out what's the next steps, and do you want to sell the house? Do you want to buy a new house? Do you want to do whatever? Like my dad did a really good job kind of keeping all his paperwork and figuring out what to do next. And I think he really made, at the end of the day, like it was his decision. Like he really made a smart decision for the family. Him being the head of the family, like he made a smart decision to just kind of move on. And So, I mean, like I said, about my family, I learned, I guess I could just see their strength. I know I have a strong family rooted in Christ too. We all saw the situation for what it was. It was a bad situation, but it could have been a lot worse. No lives were lost. Nobody like had an extended hospital stay after this. Like it could have been so much worse. And it wasn't. That was a good part.
Think like I try to put myself in your shoes or your family's shoes, and I can't even imagine what that would be like. You said about the photos that were in the little Lego bag. Thank goodness they were okay, but at first I was waiting for you to say you lost all of your photos, and like coming from a guy who has 3 external hard drives with all of my stuff backed up on it. I got my normal one, I got my backup, and the backup to my backup that goes in our safe. Like, my gosh, I couldn't imagine if something like that would have been lost. It's, that's something that's important to me. But so
No, for sure.
What was the time like for your family until they got situated again?
Well, so again, as far as October 6th, I came home, right before, I think it was maybe, I don't remember what break we had, but it wasn't quite Thanksgiving. I came home like a couple weekends later, and we were like, our family was put in a hotel until we figured out what was next. That they stayed there for a while, quite a few weeks. Like the insurance put us in a nice hotel. They got comfortable there. It's funny because every single time we passed that hotel, like my sisters can't even look at it because they were so sick of it at that point. Mind you, it's a very nice hotel. Like I went home for that long weekend. I had a suite to myself. Breakfast was served. They had these wonderful blackout curtains. I used to sleep till 3 p.m. because I just didn't know if it was day or night. Like I had a good time. They can't even look at the hotel at this point. But we were in this hotel. They were in this hotel for a few weeks. And then finally, my parents decided on like the insurance pretty much rented a house in West Orange where we live now. And they could stay there as long as until they found a new property to purchase. And they started working with a real estate agent. They lived in that rental house for a couple months. And then finally they decided on this house and they bought this house and it was getting renovated for a while. So, and ended up here. I don't remember the date they moved in, but it was a few months after the fire. So from the time of the fire to the time we moved into this house it was again, a couple months, but we went from hotel to the rental to this house, and this house is great.
Anytime something big like this happens in somebody's life, especially like, when they have faith roots, I'm always interested, like, how did this event, or I should say, how have you carried your faith forward since this event, or having lived through this event? What, if anything, has changed about the way you walk in your faith or the way you view certain things since the fire?
That's a good question. Well, I feel like there's an answer I should give versus like the real
Give me the real
answer,
one.
right?
Give me
like
the real one.
you look at a situation like this, and it's just like God's got you, right? There's no reason you should ever doubt him because you've seen the worst of the worst, and you've made it out alive, and your family's seen the worst, and they've made it out alive. But like that's like a perfect world, right? Like I wish that was the case where I can sit here and say I never doubt God and I never doubt that things are going to be okay, but situations still come. Like the devil is still real, right? And I don't know. I think that did strengthen my faith. No, I know it strengthened my faith. It absolutely did. And it's something that I refer back to all the time. There are a couple of big events in my life where I'm like, this could have ended really bad, but it didn't. In moments where I'm tempted to doubt, it's something that I think back to, I reflect back on. It's like that moment, something something worse could have happened, but like God didn't let that happen. It's like I've almost had to like write that down. A couple things I've had to write down. See, passing the MPT, believe it or not, was like one of them. Like this should not have happened, but it did. Like, and this is like if there's nothing else that reminds you God is good, like this has to be it. Like the very fact that like my family made it out of this house alive, like that has to be it. So how has that affected my relationship with God? Like, I guess that's my constant reminder that as bad as things could look, like God is still in control. Like he literally holds our world in his hands, and we just gotta trust him. And that's what I'm saying. Like the not so easy answer is that it's not always easy to trust, but like reflecting on this and remembering how bad things could have been, like it helps.
It's funny. I'm sitting here listening to your answers, and I told you I wanted the real answer. And as you were talking, I got to your finish line before you got there, and you kind of talked yourself in this circle. And I appreciate the reality of it. Like, we have doubts every single day. Like, I started this business. I started my own thing because I was following what I believed was God's lead on it. And at some point every single day, I doubt myself or the ability to do what I need to make it successful. And I stop and I have to think back to every situation where I doubted myself or I doubted circumstances or whatever. And when you have faith and when you believe and when you ask and pray for guidance, like he gives it to you. And it's not always on your timeline, but he gives it to you. And that's kind of how we all end up where we are. But it was just funny because I saw where your topic was going, where your thought was going, and then you finally brought it home.
Yeah.
And it's cool. It's really cool. Now I have a question. I didn't prepare you for this one, but you said it all worked out. You know, God always works things out. My question for you is, what if it didn't work out? Like, what if it was worse than the tolerable situation that played out? Like, where does your faith go if something worse would have happened?
It's a good question. And I guess this is something that I've had to start thinking about literally like in the past couple of weeks because of just life. And again, I don't have an easy answer for you, but I do believe that like I have no other choice. I think I texted this to somebody today, literally today. Like, I have no other choice but to trust God. Like, where else do I go? What else can I do other than fall back on the very foundation of my life? Like, I can't tell you how like bad news will strike me. Like, I've had bad news in the past, but like this is my immediate family. Nothing is like, thank God, like 8 of us are still alive and healthy. So I haven't had to like face something insane like that. But again, like, I feel like, okay, God has equipped me in the past always with everything I needed to get through situations. God forbid the worst did happen in those moments. Like, I'm going to bring it back to God put me exactly where I needed to be in that time where I was surrounded by people who I had just met, but like still had so much love for me. So he gave me support that I needed. And I think like he shows up like through other people. I just have to trust that God will, I don't know, God will work it out. God will give me what I need. But again, that's so much easier said than done when you haven't seen the worst of it yet. I was doing my devotions today and hold on, I'm going to pull this up. I read a verse.
I like this. I like where this is going. But I like what you said about like God can appear through other people. Like, that is so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. We don't know where or when that interaction comes from or when it's going to happen, but I'm a firm believer of that too. Go ahead, share what you got.
So it's in this devotional, Jackie Hill Perry devotional, day 7. The main verse of the day is 2 Corinthians 4:17 and 18. For our momentary light affliction is producing for us an absolutely incomparable eternal weight of glory. So we do not focus on what is seen, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. Right? And the devotion itself is just kind of talking about suffering and like how, you got to focus on God through all of that. And another verse that this devotional brought up was a verse from Psalms where David goes, my God, why have you forsaken me? And why are you so far from me? From the words of my groaning, ... Yet you are holy, enthroned on the praises of Israel. So even through suffering, like David saw God, and we see that all throughout Psalms, like where David's like, oh my goodness, God, like what's going on? Why are you doing this to me? And then he goes back to God, and because like, why is that? Right? Because even in our struggle, even in our suffering, like God comes through with comfort. And he knows us more than we know ourselves. He knows us more than our friends know ourselves. So he knows exactly what we need in terms of like how to be comforted, how to find peace. So in the event of the worst, I just got to trust that God's got me. It's not to say that it won't be hard. It will be. We're allowed to have emotions. Like we see it all throughout the Bible. Jesus wept when Lazarus died. Like we're allowed to go through these emotions, but, I don't know.
You said something interesting about the peace that we get from our faith. And like, none of us were ever promised an easy life. None of us were promised perfect life or a good life or whatever it may be. But like, we as believers should not be expecting our peace to come from anything in this life, because that we find our peace in what is after this through our belief. So that's just something interesting. All right, let's move on to Word Up.
It's time for Word Up.
All right, Word Up today, coming from the book of Daniel, chapter 3, giving some context here. So King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, he's probably best known for his rebuilding and expansion of the city of Babylon. He built it into a very nice, very fancy city, and he built a 90-foot tall gold-plated statue for the Babylonians to worship. He was very focused on building his empire. So there were three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. There were three Jews living in the city, and the whole city was worshiping King Nebuchadnezzar and the other Babylonian gods. The three men told the king that they refused to bow down and worship his statue, and the king's response was that he threatened to throw them into a furnace. So their response was to stand firm in their faith. They told him that they believed that their God would deliver them from the furnace. And here's the act of faith. We can all say that we believe, and then when our feet are held to the fire, we back down. We saw this happen with Jesus' disciples. They said, going back to the three men, they said that even if God doesn't deliver us from this fire, we will not worship you or your gods. So they're sent into the fire, but they were not harmed. I kind of find this funny. They were in the fire singing praises to God. And I'm just thinking, like, if I'm in that situation, like, if I'm singing to God, it's probably out of nervousness. But nonetheless, they are singing praises to God while they're in the fire. The three men were sent in, but 4 men were seen walking around the furnace. King Nebuchadnezzar ordered them to come out, and they did. Having witnessed this, King Nebuchadnezzar acknowledges the power of God and declared that no one should speak against him. Another topic to tie in here is a song called Another in the Fire by Hillsong. And one of the words of the song is, or one of the phrases of the song, there was another in the fire, and they're referring to the 4th man that was seen in the fire, and that is God with us. And so tying it back into your situation, Joss, even though there was no harm done in the fire at your family's house, I still think, like, the image speaks loudly to me that as that fire was burning, your family was there. There was another in the fire, and God was there. He was in it.
Absolutely.
Your family was protected, and everything inside the house was lost. But what wasn't lost was your family's faith and purpose that can never be harmed. So the same can go for any fire in our lives. There's always another one with us. So
Absolutely. I love that song because there's a line in that song where it's like, should I ever need reminding of how good you've been to me, I'll count the joy come every battle because I know that's where you'll be. And I guess that kind of just wraps up like everything that we've kind of been talking about here. It's like how do we face tough times when they do come? Like what do we fall back on? And maybe we haven't experienced as tough as it can get, but like you have to count the joy come every battle because like God has shown up in battles before. And he will continue to do so.
Josh, thank you so much for coming on. I love doing these episodes because not only does it provide me an opportunity to talk about my faith, but it also helps me to grow by listening to other stories and connecting that way. So thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me. It was good chatting.
Yeah. All right. That's going to be it for another episode of Faith in Practice. Thank you to everybody for listening. You can find this on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Find ways to connect in the show notes or find me on Instagram at Higher Power Sports PT. Thanks everyone once again, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us for today's episode of Faith in Practice. We hope you found inspiration and practical wisdom to help you live out your faith on and off of life's playing fields. If today's conversation resonated with you, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. Your support helps us continue sharing stories and insights that empower you to align your faith with your vocation. For more resources or to connect with us, visit hpsportspt.com. That's hpsportspt.com. Remember, your faith isn't just a part of your week, it's a part of your life. Let your light shine.